Hello, I'm Julieta, and I'm going to read from my book, The Amber Giants. I'm going to read 3 chapters at a time per video. There are 13 chapters, so I'll make 5 videos in the end. So in this video, you'll get to hear chapters 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, this is the story of a giant. He's based on a legendary Yeti or Bigfoot, and I've got my friend Bigfoot here to say hello. Hello. And he's also called Sasquatch or the Abominable Snowman. But in Nepal, where little Caroline, who's 11, is going to go to wake up the sleeping giant, the legendary giant of Nepal is a Yeti. So, he's been asleep for 1,000 years. Let's hear the story of how Caroline finds him and what happens when she wakes him up. Okay. This is the first page in the cover, The Amber Giants. That's my name, Julieta M. Spudich. And this is published by Henderson Publishing. They're located in Lincoln, Nebraska in the US. And they did beautiful cover and also some of the artwork, the chapter headings with the mountains and those little trees at the bottom of the page. So let's begin. Chapter 1. It was a quiet Sunday evening in Tarrytown, New York. Caroline, 11, and Sammy, 8, were playing a board game. Their mom, Miranda, was busy singing and cooking in the kitchen. Their dad, David, was out. Caroline was getting bored. It was the 3rd game already. Sammy giggled as he jumped over her piece with his and made his way down the path leading to the goal. So what if you won? Caroline sighed. You mean again? Her brother replied with a grin from ear to ear. I won again. As Sammy danced his victory dance, Caroline thought about what to do next. Her mom was still singing, which meant she wasn't paying attention to what she and her brother were doing. Caroline had wanted to investigate Dad's study for weeks. He was an archaeologist, and he was working on a cool new project. Caroline had overheard him on the phone, and he kept mentioning giants. The only problem was they weren't allowed in Dad's study. Caroline nudged her little brother and pointed to the back of the house. Sammy's eyes lit up. Dad's room, he said too loud. Caroline shushed him with a finger to her lips. They crept down the hall and opened the door. When Caroline turned on the light, she gasped in excitement at the dusty room full of books. Maps were scattered on the desk and floor. She loved old maps and books. She wished she could read all the books, even spend a few nights in the study. Caroline ran her finger along the spines of the books, all packed together on the bookshelf. She especially loved big, dusty books. Sammy got too close to a book and sneezed. Caroline shushed him, then read the title of the old book he was looking at. The Amber Giant. Sammy looked up at her. They didn't need to speak. Both of them knew the book required further investigation. Together, they pulled it out of the old wooden bookshelf. A few neighboring books and papers fell down with a crash, and Caroline winced at the noise. Would Mom hear? Caroline froze. When Caroline heard her mom singing, she knew their efforts had gone undetected. She gave Sammy a thumbs up. They both heaved the book onto the desk. Clouds of dust lifted from the pages when they opened it. Caroline ran her fingers over a page with unusual letters in a strange font. Her fingers traced the illustration of the mountain peak covered with snow. She sounded out a few words that were hard to read in the strange lettering. In the valley between Peak H123 and Peak H124, she read as her finger ran under the words. Be careful, Caroline, you'll tear it, Sammy whispered. He grabbed her wrist and tried to pull her hand away. I won't. I'm being careful. Get back. I can't see anything but your hair. Caroline rolled her dark eyes. Sammy's hair was always in the way. I'm not blocking it, he argued, his voice growing louder. His brown curls blocked out Caroline's view of the page as he bent closer to the book. You are. I can't even see the mountain anymore. Mountain? Sammy leaned closer to the page. Caroline couldn't see it all now. Back up! Her words came out much louder than she intended. Kids, their mom's high voice called from the kitchen. You better not be in your dad's study. They exchanged looks with wide, alarmed eyes. We're not in the study, Mom, Sammy yelled back. Shh, Caroline said. You'll give us away. She'll know we're in here. Caroline slammed the book shut, releasing another cloud of dust. With all her might, she picked it up and started to carry it out of the room. What are you doing? Sammy stood in front of her. You can't take the book. Dad will know. He'll never notice, Caroline argued. Look how messy this place is. There were papers and books stacked high on the wooden desk. More were scattered all over the floor. We'll get in trouble. Sammy grabbed hold of the book and pulled. Kids? Mom called again, and this time she sounded louder and closer. Sammy, let go, Caroline commanded, playing tug-of-war with the book. They both jumped at the sound of an angry voice. What are you two doing in here? Mom said, looking furious. Both Caroline and Sammy looked down at their feet, ashamed about sneaking around Dad's study. Put that book back where you found it and go up to your rooms, both of you. Caroline pushed her brother, and he stuck his tongue out at her. I can't believe you're double digits, Caroline, Mom scolded. Act your age. Her mother's dark eyes matched the color of her curly hair. Caroline and Sammy both got their mother's messy curls and dark eyes. Oh, all right, Caroline said as she stormed out of the study. Caroline? Her mom's voice sounded strained. Caroline turned with a smile she hoped was innocent. Put that book on the table, Mom said. Then you can go to your room and make your bed. Fine. Caroline dropped the book onto the table with a thump. She took one long look at the cover. Framed in an elaborate golden circle was a hairy, serious-faced creature with small eyes, a heavy forehead, and a large, pitted nose. The beast had beautiful yellow-gold fur. The amber giant, Caroline said, enjoying the sound of it. Caroline, her mom crossed her arms. Okay, I'm going, Caroline said, leaving the study. My bed is already made. She stomped up the stairs with Sammy behind her. When she got to her room, she shut the door and lay down on her quilt. It was so unfair. Her dad had maps and strange objects made of stone and wood and old books about giants and other creatures, but she was never allowed to look at them without his permission, and he never gave his permission even though she was 11. Double digits, Caroline muttered, repeating Mom's words. Well, they couldn't stop her from going down to the study later that night. She would find out more about the amber giant, whether she was allowed to or not. She pulled out a notebook with a map of the world on the front. It was her logbook. Her dad had one too, and showed her how to properly write down her observations like a real archaeologist. It was mostly filled with boring facts about which birds she could hear in the morning, and if Dad said anything cool on the phone. The last log read, 10:10 a.m. Saturday. We had pancakes for breakfast. Me, 3. Sammy, 3. Mom, 2. Dad, 5. Dad picked up the phone just after. He said, mountain giant and ancient legend. Caroline wrote a new entry. 4:30 p.m. Sunday. Sammy and I snuck into Dad's study. We found a book, The Amber Giants. Caroline closed her eyes and pictured the cover of the dusty book. The creature's forehead was heavily creased. It had a serious face, not mean. It just looked like it was thinking about something a little sad. Could a giant be sad? And why did her dad have a book about a giant? She took out her red pen and circled today's entry. She wrote the initials RFI for requires further investigation. She would find out more about the giant, even if she had to hide in the study all night. Chapter 2. After dinner, Caroline watched a film about the Upper Himalayas with her family. Dad wanted to watch it, and Caroline only agreed because she thought there might be something about the giants in it. But the film was boring. It was filled with scenes of gray rocks and snow. The people looked friendly, though. They were often smiling, with tan faces, and most wore colorful scarves. The mountains were pretty, but nothing grew on them. Caroline liked the Georgia mountains better. That's where they went on vacation. Those mountains had green plants and bright birds flying through the trees. When it was time to sleep, she crept into bed without a fuss. Her mom and dad kissed her goodnight, but as soon as they were gone, she pulled out a flashlight to read. She was too excited to feel sleepy and kept thinking about the book about the giants. When everything was quiet and the clock read 1 a.m., she crept down the stairs, trying not to make a sound. The Amber Giant book was right where she left it, sitting on top of Dad's desk. The face on the cover was a little scary in the yellow glow of her flashlight. She realized for the first time that the giant had fangs. A low, sad moan made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. When she looked around, there was nothing that could have possibly made the noise. Maybe it came from the book. Caroline was afraid, but she remembered what her dad always said. Fear often means there is something fascinating around the corner. Brave explorers will keep exploring while lesser explorers run away. Goosebumps covered her arms, but she was determined to go on. She carefully cracked open the book and flipped through the pages. The book slipped out of her grasp and fell open to one page. A lot of the words on it were long and hard to pronounce. A picture of a giant figure against the wall of a mountain caught her eye. Looking closer, she saw that the creature was trapped in the wall. Poor giant, she thought. Then, Peak E6, Annapurna. She said the words under the picture aloud. Annapurna? She thought back to the documentary about the Himalayas. She was sure it was a mountain range there. Like father, like daughter, came a low voice from the doorway. Caroline jumped. Her heart beat rapidly, and she crouched behind the desk. A crazy thought flashed through her mind. Was it the giants? The floor squeaked, and something came closer. She shut her eyes tight. Caroline? The warm, gentle voice was familiar. Opening one eye very slowly, she found her father. "Sorry I scared you," her dad said. Then he rubbed the top of her head, messing up her already messy curls. "Dad, I was just..." Caroline breathed unevenly and tried to calm down. "For a second, I thought you were the giants." "The giant, Her dad peered at her. "So the amber giant keeps you awake at night, too." Caroline touched the drawing of the creature and asked, "Is he in the Himalayas?" Dad's fine, straight hair was neat as always, and flopped over his eyes when he studied the picture. She wished she had his hair rather than her curly mess. "What makes you think that?" Dad said. Caroline showed him the text under the figure, Annapurna, Peak E6. He smoothed her curls down with his hand. As Caroline studied the page, she heard a whisper. It almost sounded like, "Find me." "Did you hear that?" Caroline asked her dad. Chills ran up her spine. "Hear what?" Her dad took a Post-it from a pile in the corner and stuck it to the page. "Oh, nothing, never mind." Caroline had a feeling that the book was talking only to her. "Who is he?" Caroline traced the image of the giant, who almost looked like part of the mountain. "Well, no one knows," her dad explained, "at least not anymore. This creature lived a very long time ago. He's trapped in rock, asleep for at least 1,000 years. "Poor giant," her dad whispered. "Can I tell you a secret?" Caroline nodded. "I want to wake him up," Dad said with a smile. "I'd like to ask him some questions." Caroline's eyes were huge. "To wake him up, will you go to the Himalayas?" "If that's where he is, that's where I'll go." Her father pointed to a pile of maps in the corner. "I have other books that show he's in the Himalayas, so I've been studying the mountain ranges. I'm nearly ready to start the expedition." He rolled out a map and showed her how to read the curves. "Contour lines show you how high the peaks are," he explained. "E6 is so high, I will need a guide. And I might have to bring an oxygen tank." Wow! Caroline's heart beat faster as she investigated the circles around the mountain. She imagined being so high up she would need an oxygen tank. "Can I go with you?" Caroline asked. "What about the documentary?" Dad asked. "I thought you said the Himalayas looked dry and cold after our movie tonight." He laughed and pulled a curl of her hair. "Boring, even." "That was before I knew he was there. Do you think he's sad?" She looked at the drawing of the giant trapped in the mountain. "He isn't awake, sweetheart," Dad said. "So no, I don't think he's sad. Anyway, you can come with me, but only if your mother says it's okay." "That's not fair. She'll never let me." Caroline crossed her arms. "That's because you're still too young," Dad said. "When you're older, you can come with me on my adventures. Right now, you need to get to bed." It wasn't fair. Caroline knew she was old enough to go, but Mom wouldn't let her. Not in a million years. Okay, are we ready for chapter 3? Chapter 3. In her dreams, Caroline walked holding hands with the amber giant. It told her stories about ancient mountains and old forests. But she would never get to meet the giant in real life. Mom would never allow it. Caroline sighed and padded down the stairs in her pajamas to the breakfast table. Her bowl of cereal was full, and she stared at the colorful flakes getting soggy. Sammy ate like it was a race and was almost finished with his. He stuck his tongue out at her and laughed. Caroline didn't laugh. Today she felt like a grump. "Caroline, are you a sleepy girl?" Her mom's dark eyes looked into hers. "No." "Yes." She looked down into her bowl. "Life's so unfair." "So I guess that means you don't want to go?" Mom said. "Go where?" Caroline asked, looking round at the 3 excited faces at the table. "The Himalayas!" Sammy cheered. "Didn't you hear?" "With Dad?" Caroline couldn't believe her luck. Dad raised an eyebrow and grinned. "Your mom and I discussed it this morning," he said with a mouthful of marmalade toast. "I need to do some surveying in the Himalayas. We'll make a summer vacation out of it in Nepal." "We'll ride an elephant," Sammy waved his spoon. "Can we climb the peaks with Dad?" Caroline asked. "We'll explore Kathmandu," Mom answered, then poured Sammy some more milk. "Any higher can be dangerous for kids." "The altitude, right?" Caroline remembered that from the film. "That's right, clever girl," Dad beamed at her. "And the amber..." Caroline caught herself just in time. Mom didn't believe in giants and got mad when Dad started talking about things like that. Dad put a finger to his mouth to silence Caroline. Then he winked at her. I'll have work to do on the trip, Dad said. It'll be boring for you, so I'll leave you three for a week or so. His back popped as he stretched his arms overhead. Can I go with you? Caroline asked. No, honey, Mom said. The journey is much too hard for children. We'll have lots of fun exploring lower down. It's a lot greener at the base of the mountains. More plants and animals, things to see. Caroline felt her heart sink. They would be so close to the mountains, but she wouldn't get to see the giants. Mom smoothed down Caroline's curls. It's time for another haircut, young lady. Mom, you're always telling me to act my age, Caroline said. Now you tell me I'm too young to go exploring. I am old enough, and I want to go into the mountains with Dad. Caroline pushed aside her soggy cereal. Sammy shook his spoon at her. You are too young, he said in a fake deep voice, making a silly face. She had to laugh. Getting to Nepal was at least something, Caroline thought. She would think of a way to get to Peak E6. One way or another, she would be there when her dad woke the Amber Giants. 7 a.m. Monday. We ate breakfast together. Sammy and me, cereal. Dad and Mom, coffee and toast. We planned our summer vacation in Nepal. My mission, to go with Dad on his quest to wake the Amber Giants. Okay, thank you for listening to chapters 1 through 3. And look out for my next video where we'll find out what happens in Kathmandu and if Caroline makes it to the mountain peaks. All right, bye.